Hello, this is just part 2. In my last video I was talking about both sides of the abortion debate and what my stance is. In that video I said I'm pro-abortion in cases of rape, in cases where the woman's health is impacted, but I am uncomfortable with late stage abortion. And I'm also uncomfortable with the argument that it's solely about women's rights, given that a lot of women oppose abortion. And I don't like the way feminists have somewhat hijacked this issue for their own agenda. I would say that the concept of fetal development is extremely important in this whole debate. And another point I'd make, it's wrong for pro-abortion people to make out that it's only religious people oppose abortion. Now, I'm not religious and I'm uncomfortable with late stage abortion. So it's not accurate to say it's only religious people are opposed to abortion. That's just not accurate. I think there's a whole, I've seen another argument of the pro-life side, which is that women who don't want the pregnancy, don't want the baby, can offer that baby up for adoption. I think that's a fair point. Is that not an area that should be spoken about a bit more? Certainly there's so many angles to take with both sides. I think majority consensus seems to support the pro-abortion position. At the moment, I think I read a statistic, 60% of Americans are for pro-choice positions, 40% are against. So it's a slight majority that are more, but it's obviously a very divisive subject. And I do think the whole concept of fetal development and when we call a human being is absolutely vital. Playing the devil's advocate, I'm going to play the devil's advocate in fact here for both sides. Let's say that the fetus is a human being. That's if you take the position it's a human being, then abortion is murder, and there's no escaping that fact if you take that position. I'm not saying that's my view. I'm saying if as a society we regard the fetus as human, then you have to conclude that terminating a fetus, destroying a fetus, is murder. But if you conclude that it's not developed enough to be a human being, then it's termination, it's not murder. That's a very, very critical point, I think, in this whole debate, and one that can never be spoken about enough, really, because, and that's not a religious stance, that's a biological stance, a scientific thing about when a fetus becomes human, if that's even the right word to use, if fetus is even the right word to use in this context. It does depress me how divisive this subject is, because it does often lead to angry exchanges and sometimes sadly violence. A lot of the time there's no middle ground, and that's one reason I wanted to make these videos, because I honestly have a somewhat neutral position. I'm sure there's other people out there who can see what I'm talking about, that they see both sides. One point I would make, actually, if we're talking about women's rights and women's choices, well, I do find it interesting that the pro-choice people have been silent on a recent thing that emerged from the People's Republic of China, which was the case of forced abortion. Now you're saying that women should have choices about whether or not they terminate a pregnancy, but surely in that case women should also have choices about whether they get to keep a baby or not. Now this case in China was appalling. It's not surprising in a country which regularly tramples human rights, but basically what happened was a young woman couldn't pay the fine for not having an extra child, so she was forced by local city officials to have an abortion. There's really distressing images circulating on the net with this woman and the fetus that had been terminated right next to her. and that was forced. She didn't want to have the abortion. And I'd like to see some pro-choice people condemn that as well. If they really do believe in women's rights, then I'd like to see a consistent position in saying that they also condemn that. I think if there's one area people can surely agree on, it would be reducing the need for unwanted pregnancies. Now, I believe there's an organisation called Planned Parenthood, which promotes sex education. They're a pro-choice group, but they do promote sex education. So it's not fair to say that all pro-choice people are reckless. I've heard some pro-life people claiming that women who go through with abortions are sluts who murdering babies and stuff. I've heard that a few times, and that's deeply unfair. And likewise, I think it's deeply unfair to brand pro-life people as woman-hating religious extremists, and I'm just sick of the vilification on both sides. There must be some common ground, like for example reducing the number of unwanted pregnancies. Surely everyone would agree with that, and President Obama made that point. You may support a woman's right to choice, but you may still prefer that the need for abortion doesn't arise in the first place, because she wouldn't get pregnant in the first place. And likewise, if you are a pro-life person, you may support the whole concept of families and procreation and so on, but then again you are obviously against abortion. So there's different angles to take with this. I've basically said what I need to say. I'm still learning about this. It may well be in the future I have a more dogmatic view either way. At the moment, what I see is a very divisive issue whereby both sides are just constantly vilifying the other. And that saddens me a bit, because this is a serious subject, and it would be nice if there was some common ground that both sides could... sorry, I didn't get much sleep last night. Some common ground that both sides can reach some sort of consensus. And people need to stop vilifying the other side. I'm tired of pro-choice people demonising their opposition as woman haters, especially given that a lot of people opposed to abortion are women. So just that's an absurd simplification. And likewise, it's absurd to suggest that everyone who supports choice loves the whole idea of abortion and is going to have loads of abortions. And yeah, I think both sides just need to try and reflect more. I appreciate people have strong views and convictions. I'm not going to tell anyone to change their stance. Obviously, if you believe strongly in something, you're going to stand by that. But I do think there's a cause for both sides to be more... both sides to be more civil and more... just appreciate that may be conviction for you, but the other side, that they have equally strong moral convictions from their perspective. It doesn't make them bad people. Either way, it's just their stance. In the future, I may take a much more pro-choice position, a much more pro-life position. At the moment, I honestly see both sides, and I don't think either side should be silenced. And at the moment, because the law is on the side of the pro-choice people, I think there's more of a tendency to silence pro-life people and to accuse them of being woman haters and so on, and I think that's deeply unfair. This is not an issue that should be censored. It's not an issue whereby people should be shut up. People are entitled to their views as long as they're respectful and peaceful. That's my conclusion about abortion. I support for rape for the mother's health. I'm very uncomfortable with it at late stage development, and I would support reduction of the termination period. Okay. Thank you for listening.